I'd like to call order this meeting of the Monroe County Redevelopment Commission for Wednesday, March 23rd, 2022. Call the roll to figure out who's here and how they are attending.
Commissioner Martin.
Present.
Commissioner Shelton.
Present via Zoom.
Commissioner Kiesling.
Here.
Commissioner McCarty. Present. And Commissioner Abbott is not in attendance as of yet, and I do not see Commissioner Tucker either.
I don't think we received any messages. All right, staff present. Do we consider Greg staff?
Greg is not staff.
He's not staff. And Jeff and Lisa are here. County. We're going to start off with the annual reports. You should have received in your packet the annual reports prepared by FSG Group for our 4 TIF areas. And I think I just turned this over to Greg to let him get started. Greg, you're on.
Thank you, sir. And thank you, all the commissioners and everybody. And Jeff, is someone going to present these on the screen?
I can present them on the screen.
Super. Which one do you want to start with?
I want to start with whichever one you think is most appropriate, but it will be just a second. I just got an email from Lisa Abbott wondering where the Zoom about the Zoom information. So I'm going to send that to her.
Okay.
Super. And then we can start with West Side. I'm assuming all the commissioners have a copy.
Yes, we
Yes.
do.
Why don't we start with the easiest, smallest ones first?
Oh, okay.
So that everybody becomes familiar with your format and where things are positioned.
So which one we start with, Richard?
How about Curry?
I can't.
Lisa, that's the
understand.
easiest one, isn't it?
Curry.
Yeah,
Curry.
I have nothing in there.
We'll go Curry, Fullerton, and 46, and then West Side.
Yep, that sounds good. That'll go from easy to hard.
Super.
Well, easy to more voluminous.
Yes.
We will let you know when Greg's got things or when Jeff has things loaded.
Thank you, sir. And then I'll give a little preview about what all this does for us.
Should be loaded. Oh,
I saw it, Jeff. There it is.
Can you see it then, Greg?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. You tell him where to go in the report as you speak, would you please?
Absolutely. But let's chit chat a minute. So
Okay.
these annual reports, we put them together for several different reasons. And when we put them together, they really kind of serve different purposes. And let me go through the benefits of what we're doing here. Number one, the Redevelopment Commission is required to give an annual report to the DLGF about its TIF districts on or before April 1. So we're solving that with these reports. Number two, you're to communicate or send this report to the fiscal body of the county and have them take notice of the report. You're not required to go through in detail with them, but basically transmit it on to them. That's benefit number two. Benefit number three is for the ones that have bonds outstanding. We will use this document and we will upload it to Emma, and it will serve the purpose of the secondary market disclosure. And so what is Emma? Any sophisticated issuer or anyone that has bought your bonds knows it's a central place they can go to get financial information, both on the county, because we upload your annual report and things like that too. And we upload the TIF, basically the TIF annual report. So that's important. This will also serve as a document that we will make a recommendation that we will not want to pass AV along, and we'll make that general recommendation, and then you'll review that recommendation later this year when Jeff tells you that come June, May or June, you've got to formally make that recommendation. But I'll kind of state that. The final point is this also serves as the document that will go to the underlying taxing districts. And it is my understanding Jeff has sent this on and invited them to your meeting. And so it serves as the document to kind of inform them. So we like to say you're getting 4 to 5 benefits out of one report. So that's important. Any questions on those benefits?
Nope.
Okay, if not, Jeff, if you would go to the cover page on this one, it's very, very light and easy. It already points out the next step, which is transmitting it.
It's a Curry one, I think.
Yeah, you're right. You're right there. And it's the cover letter right there. So about transmitting this on to the fiscal body, the county council, by April 15th. So this one we can kind of step through fairly quickly. If you go to, let's go to the summary of the findings, Jeff, and I believe it's PDF page 6. And commissioners, please stop me at any time if you want to talk about something. Page 6, one more, Jeff.
Okay,
Sorry.
got it.
There may be a little lag too. Okay. So as we know, this is a fairly new allocation area. And we did make note on number 2 there that we've been working on a certain correction that where the personal property was incorrectly included in the base. And I think we're getting that taken care of. So we're on our way. It is our understanding that the developer Cook Group Incorporated it currently owns the bonds. And right now there's not too awful much happening. But Jeff, so let's go to page 6 or 8 of the PDF. I'll stick with the PDF, 8. So this is the final debt amortization schedule for what was known as the Curry Pike bonds. And as you can see, we're in the beginning stages of this, which we knew. And so no payments are due at this point in time. So if you go to the next page, Jeff, we set forth any cash and things like that. But since there's been no activity that's really been assessed, I think we're expecting that 2022 payable 2023. We've already got the funds set up, but no activity. So on the final one, you'll see the actual assessed value and the projected, what we're expecting to see for 2022, I guess I should say, is 1.48 million. And so we've caught up with the projection now, or getting real close. So, but we expect it, again, this will change each and every year. And, you know, as a hypothetical schedule based upon the developer's best estimate. So any questions on that report? The rest of the report merely shows, and we got an updated map, by the way. Jeff worked really hard on that. If you go to page 16, that's the updated map, and pretty small TIF district. And then the items behind that are the mandatory items that we have to put in there about redevelopment commission employees and any changes that have occurred. So any questions on Curry Pike at this point?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Very confusing.
So when I look at comparing the estimated annual tax increment and the TIF revenue with the debt service that's going to occur, it appears that we just marginally make the debt service in 2024. Does that sound right?
No, because
And it says we're gonna have to pay out 154 and we're gonna get 75, 125, we're gonna get about 154.
okay, so let's go to let's
125, it says we need to pay out another 154, we're only gonna get 105, so I'm.
but that's still based upon the estimated build out. And we're assuming that they're going to catch up or do better. Now, keep in mind that fact right there. So we're catching up to the estimate. I believe it'll start kicking in 23 and 24 and 25. Now, personally, I have not been through the building, so I don't know. And I'm not sure. Have you all been through the building recently?
Well,
Has
things
anybody-
essentially stopped during COVID. They have
Yeah.
started back to do some stuff, some work over there.
Okay, and
I'm
recall,
not sure they're gonna make this, I'm not sure they're gonna get this value in.
okay, well, recall that if they don't, the burden of the debt service does not fall back on the county. Period.
Now, we end up paying, however, we're gonna be paying against the principal, so any deficit would not occur until the end of the loan. We're gonna be paying on it as we can going forward.
Correct. Whatever money we get in, we will pay towards
Right,
the loan. Yes.
okay,
And principal doesn't even start until 2027.
yeah,
But keep in mind, we don't have interest on interest.
right,
So,
okay.
and ears, help me out. How was it confusing? Maybe I can do better on the next one.
I can't, I don't hear what he said.
How was it
I can
confusing?
understand him.
Okay.
He asked how it was confusing,
And what?
how his presentation was confusing so he can improve.
Well, your pages weren't the same. Colin and I have been commiserating. And your audio on the screen is not very it's not very good. It's just too loud. I guess I'll take my earrings out.
Okay. And so Jeff, what I'll do is stick with the actual page, maybe rather than the PDF page.
That's fine.
Well, mine got stapled, but I don't think they all were necessarily where you said they were supposed to be. Like page 6 was actually page 4, I think.
And that's
Right.
because
Go
he's
ahead.
going off the PDF number and not the page number on that, but
okay.
he'll switch to the
Okay,
page
well, then
number
he
on the
needs to
actual sheet.
Give us
Yeah.
direction where it
Yeah.
is.
No.
You caught on faster than I did.
Oh, well. Yeah, I've been there. I know how to, I got to adjust. I know I get lost sometimes if people do that. So,
Okay,
Perfect. And I'll try and speak clearly.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to go to Fullerton Pike next.
yes, I think that is correct. Is there anything else in here? It's only signature pages. All right, yes, on to Fullerton Pike.
Super. So Jeff, let's go to the cover letter.
I am working on it.
Oh, yeah, you got to put it up, and because there's other people, and Lisa, I see, is here, so.
And Lisa Abbott is in attendance.
great.
Oh, good.
It was-
Hi, Lisa.
Hello.
Okay. Not too much on the cover letter. So what we'll do now is we'll go directly to the findings, Jeff, or the purpose of the report, which is page 2 for actual copies.
Okay.
Okay, so we've got a few things that have taken place lately. And as you see, the largest taxpayer in the area, number 5. The assessed value was increased for 219 and 20 and 21, and we'll go to page 5 when we get there. 2 parcels with previous assessed valuation totaled 1.4 became tax exempt for taxes payable in 2022. Okay, and we always make the recommendation, and both Lisa and Jeff know that we always want to keep an eye on the parcels and the map, because as we know, divisions and splits happened. So let's go to actual page 4, which is labeled analysis of cash and investments.
Got it.
Okay, so this is what's occurring. And you noticed on the next page, Jeff, we should go to page 5 for 3/1/22, the latest numbers that we have. Keep in mind, we bring this up to date as much as we can, even though the report's only required to go to 12/31/21. Okay, and you see that we have approximately $509,000 in the bank. Okay. We'll go to the next page, which is actual page 6.
Greg, wait a minute.
All right, so I guess this will come up later, that we're expecting more claims in 22, correct?
Oh, yes, this is only 2 months.
Right, okay.
And we're expecting revenue in 22.
Right.
Again, as of 3/1 or February 28th.
Good.
Okay, so let's go to actual page 6. Actual page 6 shows the most recent estimate of revenue, which is $152,000. Now note at the bottom of that page that says does not include school referendum tax or fire district tax rate. So because they've created a fire district and not a fire territory, this is out from underneath a TIF. So TIF does not capture that rate. Important point to know. Okay.
If I go back and I look at the tax rates table for Perry Township, which is the earlier in the report, I would subtract from there 1.37, the value for the fire district and the school, correct?
Well, not the total school.
Right.
If you notice, it's only the referendum portion of 9 cents.
Okay, all right, which is not specifically stated in the other tax table. Okay,
It is as a footnote number 1, 9.05 cents for 22.
thanks.
You're welcome. Okay, so if we go on from here, you see the parcel analysis on actual page 7. And the description of the area and the map. And then we come to Lisa's attachment, which is Appendix C, infrastructure construction. So keep in mind, we have no debt on this. So Lisa, anything worth noting here? I didn't hear you if you said anything.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I mean, I don't have anything to add unless somebody has some questions on the project itself or project costs.
Perfect. So any questions on the entire report or on the project cost?
So I'm assuming that you're phasing project such that the local match, which is coming out of TIF dollars, I assume.
Well, also, they have the major bridge fund.
Right, we have two
That's-
local match funds,
Yes.
and the allocation from the TIF is consistent with our expected TIF revenue availability over the next what, 3 or 4 years. It's happening.
Yeah, it'll take at least, I think it's usually 18 to 24 months for construction. When it goes to letting, and I believe that one is in 2023.
Okay, so we're gonna have. I'm just trying to match up our available funds with what we expect to be paying out.
We won't have enough.
2 million in the bank now. Plus, we're gonna generate another 150 each year, so another 3 years, so we're gonna have 2.25 million. That's gonna meet our share.
We'll use every bit of what we can from the Fullerton Pike tip,
Okay.
and then the more for the roadway of the project,
Okay,
and then the remainder will be used out of major bridge.
okay, all right. And then all we have to do is maintain our minimum balance in that fund to keep it moving along, right?
That-
All right, thank you.
Any other questions?
Well, yeah, this is Jim Shelton. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Jim.
Well, the annexation impact on this, we had talked earlier about, do we want to get some debt so that this TIF doesn't go away in theory, January 1st of 2024? So I don't know if that's something we need to get Greg to help dig into in terms of when the money comes. Now, I don't know if they'll actually get it done by 2024 because we're probably going to be in court for a while, but it just seems like it's something we need to keep our eye on.
I don't know that the annexation would make any difference in this, because the fire district is already out of it, right? We've already taken that out.
Well, I think what he's referring to, since we don't have debt in that TIF district, if it gets annexed, then that TIF district essentially goes away.
So all we have to do is get Lisa to give us a bill before 2024.
I'd like a little bit more time than, before, how about the end of 2023?
Right, there is nothing that prohibits us from using this money to pay the upfront
Right.
parts of our match
Mhm.
and let
Yes.
the other funds pay in the later years.
Now, I need to go back and look in the MPO allocations, because we should have some MPO funds tied to construction for this project.
Okay,
I think we had gave up a couple years in a row to get the full 2.7 million for the year of construction. So that can be added to this. Also, from what I'm understanding, and I haven't received any numbers, but I think it would take encouragement from the board to help work with the MPO, that there's going to be more funds allocated to MPO, but there'll also be competitive with City of Bloomington, could be Town of Ellettsville and Rural Transit, but we do have this huge project to where if they will help allocate any more of the expected funds to come, and they do expect more funding to come to the MPO over the upcoming year or two.
so I guess Jim's question, or taking Jim's question, it doesn't make any sense for us to bond to make sure we've got the funds available to meet our obligation and then pay those bonds off over a longer period of time. through that TIF.
And I think that that's yet to be determined.
Okay,
I think that's something that we need to keep an eye on. I think in the next year or two, we should really look at that and see where we're at with our cash and see where we're at with allocations. Because I think when we had this conversation earlier, we had talked about maybe using the major bridge fund as a backup source for these TIF revenues, but then we'd also have to use, I mean, we'd have to allocate what's going to the bridge versus what's not, because if we're using major bridge as a backup, we have to
right.
take that into account.
And the major component of the project is the bridge,
In the bridge, right.
because it's over 500 feet in length
Right,
now. So
right.
it is justifiable to use most of those funds from the major bridge fund. And then another reason we want to kind of see how right-of-way acquisition went, to see if there was going to be any condemnations. As of right now, it's going very well. I think we have 17 property owners. I want to say we have at least 5 secured at this point. I think we had signed offers again this week. So that's going to move that number up. So we're not seeing any issues right now with right-of-way. So we kind of wait to see what we use out of cash for right-of-way acquisition.
Okay,
And I would just let President Martin know that Lisa Abbott has her hand up.
I can't see it. So Lisa, yes, you have a question.
No, I think Jeff actually said what I was going to say, is that I thought we had discussed that we might want to think about doing a bond. And Lisa, is this the only work that needs to be done in that area? Is this the only thing that TIF needs to do?
So this is the only major project that we have going in that area. And the reason why we haven't probably tackled another project is due to the cost of this Fullerton Pike Phase 3 and how it's increased in cost over the years. And construction is continuing to increase on a monthly basis, actually. The only other thing, I do know we do have the roundabout landscaping project for the 2 roundabouts. The commissioners have bonded for those in their GEO bond. But as we move forward, I expect those costs to increase too, to where the Fullerton Pike TIF will have to help maybe assist in those projects. We're actually bidding out the first roundabout landscaping next Wednesday morning at 9 a.m. So then we're going to have a better idea of what it's going to cost. As far as like just some future things that's in that TIF would be basically street lighting, things like that, that will be paid out of the TIF, and any necessary things as that. As far as another road project, the next phase of Fullerton Pike was to be west of Walnut Street Pike to the Sayre Road intersection. We don't have anything under design. The original project was set up to go that far, and that would have been phase 4. Again, we haven't moved forward with that because we saw the escalation of the cost of phase 3.
Right.
Yeah,
I-
so I was just going to suggest that we continue to hold the idea of doing a bond in reserve, because it might become necessary.
And I would, one of the other issues we had and why we haven't issued any debt in this is the nature of the payer. The major payer is a hospital that could go, that if it went not for profit, you would lose the majority of your revenue.
Right, yes, it did take a tumble there, didn't it?
So Jeff, if I may I kind of answer Jim's, and because I think I made a suggestion before, if not, I'm going to make it again. And so for Lisa and Jim, what I would recommend, Jeff, is that possibly you and I and Lisa and Bruce Donaldson maybe have a conference call, because I'm well aware of the tax exemption. I'm well aware of protecting what we need and all that, because I've been on board for quite a while. We may be able to create what we call a county reimbursement obligation, which is akin to debt, and if done correctly. And if we would basically take any costs that we are incurring between now and then, paid for from other sources other than the TIF, and create an obligation for that. And so at minimal risk and minimal cost, maybe we could create basically a obligation similar to what you're trying to achieve, and have a win-win for the county.
It's an idea.
So I'm suggesting we kind of explore that possibly over the next 30 days and see about putting in and see what the viability of something like that might be.
Okay.
So does that sound like something, Jeff, you and the board would like to do?
I think that's
Yeah, I
seems
think we
reasonable to
want to
me.
explore every option.
Yeah, right.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and on something like that, Lisa, if we're spending funds as we go right now, we could basically do a reverse of what we're doing on a draw bond and basically maybe create a bond that grows in size as you use other funds.
Right.
So I'm creatively thinking out of the box, but that's what you pay me for. So
That might be a really good way to deal with some of these increased costs we're seeing, that as they are escalating beyond expectation because of circumstance. This would be a way for us to deal with that. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you, Greg.
you're welcome, sir.
I think we're ready to move on to Bloomington Township, are we?
Or what is known as State Road 46.
Yes, that's what that is.
Okay, once you get it up, Jeff, I see nothing on the letter of transmittal, so the key will be going to the general information, which I am on actual page 3. Perfect. To bring everybody up to speed, we had original financing on this, which this indicates that was $7 million, and that we made our final payment on that on February 1 of 2021. As you know, last year we entered into a $4.5 million economic development income tax bond that we will begin paying on again at no risk to the taxpayers. Very, very important as we get money in. And so what I'd like to do is kind of go to the summary of findings, actual page 5 now. And again, I will point out that Bloomington Township dissolved the fire territory and joined the district. So those taxes will be removed. So that will change, have some impact beginning in 2021, did have some impact on the revenues. So we go to the next page, which is actually kind of the summary of the tax rate, but the next page after that is the amortization schedule on page 7, actual page 7. As you know, we actually, Steve, the developer was very, very gracious to give us a 4% interest rate. And some might say, well, that's kind of high. Actually, today we're dealing with 6 and 7% interest rates. So this is a good one, given that the developer has all the risk. We have no risk. Okay, important point to remember. Go to the next page, page 8, and you will see the cash flow. And again, I didn't point out that I know especially when we get to the next district, there's lots of pages, but we think there's a real value to keep the history in these reports, because right here you can see it all the way back from 08. If the commission wouldn't see that value, they just can let us know and we would delete certain years, But I really like to include that unless you do not. So especially with new commissioners coming in and out. Okay, so the next page is the actual page 9, kind of setting up the original projections and the actual projections. And more important, we knew that was in the past that was not occurring. And now that we ended up with the new debt, I think things are looking better. But again, it is at the risk of the developer. Then what we do on several pages after that, you can kind of thumb through those, Jeff, is we set up some of the increases and the decreases. The most significant is some of the changes that occurred on actual page 14 or 2022. And as you can see, we've got a lot of positive momentum building when you get a little further down to 2022, actual page 14. Okay, so things are going in the right direction.
So in 2023, we will be dropping the properties that the county purchased.
Jeff, help me out on that.
Yeah, in 2023, so we purchased them in 21. So in 2023, they would be.
Right. Okay. All right.
Okay, so moving on then, this is our most recent estimate on actual page 15, about 300,000, 290,000. So we're getting close to debt service. And again, kind of knew that going in, and hopefully it will build up to about 400 to 450,000 here soon, so that we'll be able to match it up with debt service. I think it's going to work out a lot better than the original one, unless we have same events that occurred back there in the early years of this TIF district, which was the recession and all that. Okay, after that, you've got all the parcel analysis, and you've got, I believe, the most updated map then, correct, Jeff?
Yes.
We tried to get the updated, that's all the parcels, so the updated map is coming here in a minute.
Right. Now, did we get that one large parcel?
We looked at the document, and I found the original document where the TIF was created. That you could actually read the numbers, and that was not included in the original TIF. So I think
Wasn't it didn't you find something else where it got added to the TIF?
I think the one that got added late was the one, it was west of State Road 46. It was I forget the name of the property owner, but she was at one of the meetings.
Ah, okay.
That's the way I saw.
So that
Yes.
one big chunk is not in the TIF.
Correct.
Oh,
Okay.
Then Jeff, if you go to the infrastructure, Lisa, I don't know, how are they doing on the infrastructure projects out there?
I have not heard anything from the developer. Did you hear me, Greg?
Yes, and so you hadn't heard, or is there any activity?
I don't think there was any activity at this point. I think he was planning on getting the design done this year.
Think so.
Gotcha.
The IUEMS, is that a tax exempt property?
I assume so.
Yeah, okay. I did have a question for Lisa on the description of the project. The original description of the project that I had seen included sewer, but this short description doesn't include sewer. I wanted to know what the difference was and why it wasn't included here. don't really want to build a road and then have to dig up the road to
No.
put in utilities.
And if, you know, if Steve's, did Steve's include that? Steve's.
I think he did
Okay.
in
And
his,
so I probably just didn't describe that on here, just
Okay.
because this is kind of the template we
Right.
use. So we don't spell out all the utilities that are going in, but if it's in there, and and I increased our cost just a little bit just
Right.
because. But it would include all the utilities
would
that would
be
go into a
nice, yeah.
general project.
right.
Yep.
Yeah, just want to make sure that that gets in there.
Right.
Now, the other thing that I noticed in here was there was an estimate for linear feet of property acquisition. Are we safe in assuming that the property that's owned by the county does not have to be acquired? That we can get that right away and it's just part of the right of way?
I think that's very safe to assume.
Okay, so that these figures are going to be escalated by some amount for that part of the
Mhm.
easement that we won't have to, or right away, we're not going to
Have to pay for it.
pay for. Okay, good. All right,
So this could probably be your worst case scenario to throw out there.
all right. Thank you.
Any other questions on State Road 46?
The other one is that, did you ever, Jeff, did you ever start a conversation with him about what would happen if we took that north part of it out and put it into another TIF and decrease the AV by $2 million?
We started that conversation and that we were going to pick up that conversation as soon as he got the state compliance documents done and
Okay.
and ready to get filed, because that was a higher priority.
Right, that makes sense to me, but you know, then you're on the hook for helping us understand the implications if we should decide to split this TIF into two pieces and create a new one for the part of the property which is north of 46. That's on your plate.
Yes, I understand that. Yes, I do.
Good, all right, thank you.
And I am being told that EMS is has started moving in today, tomorrow. It is
Yeah, they
complete,
paid
so.
their sewer connection fee, so we know they're gonna start moving money. Okay,
Any other questions on this report? If not, we'll go to the 61-page report.
yes.
And-
Now, when does it start coming out in microfiche?
Stay tuned. Iris, can you hear me better? I'm trying to speak up.
Yeah, I can hear you okay now.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Jeff, let's go to the letter of transmittal. Nothing much there. So what we'll do is we'll go to the latest part of the summary of findings. And maybe, Jeff, yeah, there'll be a better place to talk about the debt and some things like that. So if we go to the summary of findings, there's not much there. I think there's just a lot of general comments. So let's now go through our debt. I'm on actual page 9. And we'll just chat about these. So we have the redevelopment district bonds of 2020. And oh my gosh, what a fabulous interest rate the county was able to achieve. I am glad we're not issuing these today. Would be higher. So as you can see, these have a 2% interest rate, and we're probably not going to refund those in the future. The next one is the 2015 bonds, and on actual page 10. And these are now a little higher, as you can see, as you can see, we'll be looking at the possible refunding of those. At the very bottom, there's a footnote at 1/15/2024. So before we accelerate back into the fours and the quarters and 4.5, we'll cross our fingers that the world gets better and the interest rates come back down some or stay where they're at. They're not too awful bad. We did a Hendricks County bond at 2% today, but it was a shorter issue. So, you know, they will be able to possibly refund this in a year or two. So,
I have a question about that.
yes, sir.
Just so it's clear, since we did the next bond, does that, because when we did the 2015 bond, it was in part to pay for the project, but we structured it so that it would extend the life of the TIF pursuant to that change in state law.
Yes, sir.
At that point in time, you told me and Bruce Donaldson told me that we can't refund it or we can't pay it off because if we do, then the TIF goes away. I assume that new debt changes things.
Number one, you said two things. We can refinance, but we can't pay off. So we would not lower the maturity date or change the maturity date of 2039, but you can enjoy the opportunity of lower interest rates if achievable. Okay, and we've done that with what's been called legacy bonds. But yeah, Jeff, you're exactly correct. We would be very, very cautious and careful no matter what we do. Okay. Going to page 11 now, this is one where we've said, wow, okay, we've passed the call date. We've got a payment coming up on 7/15 of 2022. And the last I looked, we are in 2022. Although the way time's been flying, I'm not sure I can always keep track. But so we do have the opportunity, Jeff, to go ahead and when we make the 180, we could call the 185 and be done with this. I think I'd kind of like to maybe make that suggestion because we still can't earn 2% yet, but we might want to look at doing that. And we could save maybe $2,000 or $4,000.
Yeah.
There'd be a little cost. You got to do a resolution to pay off, but I think we can get that done without a problem. So moving on, then as you can see, the coverage calculation. Now, this is the one I should point out to all of everybody here that we are on the hook for these bonds. These are the bonds that the TIF pays first, and we have because the counties was gracious enough to loan their credit to this, we have what's called a general obligation backup. We never intend to use that, and I've told you for many, many years we won't use it. And in fact, in the many, many years we've been doing this, we have not used it. That's a very important point because there's a lot of TIF districts that have had to use it. And so, and again, that's only specific to this district. So the really good news is, and Martin, you remember, and so does other people, that we usually used to do a with and without GE on this, and we don't have to do that anymore. And so I think we've got great coverage and we're protecting the county taxpayer very well. But I also think we got an opportunity to pay up front on those 13 bonds and be done with them. Any questions on that?
No, this looks a lot better than when we were flirting with the 2.0
Yeah.
coverage.
Absolutely, absolutely. And, you know, we still have time to get a lot more work done. You know, this district has paid so many dividends back to the county taxpayer, you couldn't begin to be able to calculate those. So the next pages, this is really complicated, the next pages, because the cash for each bond, they have their own reserve and they have their own cash flow. So you're kind of like, Greg, could you make this any more confusing? I'm not trying to make it confusing. It is a fact of the fact that when you got a couple different bonds, you got to lay it out by each bond because it's held by different for each different bond. So the best place for us to go to, Jeff, is probably actual page 22. And let's look at the actual flow of funds. Actual page 22 for anyone flipping through pages. And this is, again, really nice because we've got our flow of funds all the way from 2001. And you can see that, you know, we were back there in the high side of 664, but we've been, you know, doing well and still have a good reserve, but we also have lots of projects that Lisa is managing. And so I think that's important. And then if you go to page 23, for some of you that really like the detail, we split out the different categories that it's the projects that are the money's being spent on. So again, the underlying taxing district should be very, very proud to know that we're full disclosure here and, you know, trying to indicate to them where all the, show them in an easy document where all the money is being spent. And so the county should be applauded for doing that because a lot of times people do this in summary form and that's it. Okay, next page, page 24, shows the history of our AV. The good news is at the very bottom there, actual page 24, we have been increasing our AV. Some AVs in some areas have been going down. So this is important. We continue to build a great engine to fuel our projects. Okay, so if you look, we've got the further detail page by page of the changes. But the important thing is if we go to exhibit P, as in Paul or actual page 39, we show the actual coverage for 2022. And this is, again, something that the investor wants to see. He wants to see if his bonds are at risk. And we can safely say they are not at risk, nor is the taxpayer at risk. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay, so then we have on the next page, page 40, the cash flow and what we've got going on there.
Wait a minute.
Page 40, once you get back there, Jeff.
If I look at the estimated debt service coverage calculation, which is the combined bonds, you've got a coverage number of 3.18. And here you've got a coverage number of 2.94. Why is there a difference?
It's going to be a timing difference. The 3.182188, and we've got on the projected revenues here. Stand by.
Or could be different tax rates.
No, what we're required to do on page 39, you see the max combined annual debt service. We must, for the MADS test or the actual test of coverage, you have to use the maximum combined annual debt service.
Okay.
The other one actually has timing as far as actual debt service. So that word maximum is the key.
Okay, all right, thank you.
So on actual or maximum, we have two different calculations.
Okay, thank you.
Very good eye. I knew you'd catch that, Martin. On the next one, page 40 is where we were leaving off and kind of our cash flow. And help me out here, Lisa, and this is with our school payment. And how's that cash flow looking in 22 and 23 on our projects?
I think we're still doing okay. I'm not foreseeing any issues at the moment. We're in right-of-way acquisition. So that's going to depend on how far those go into condemnation too on how those will come out.
Super. So Jeff, if you go to Appendix D, then she has, Lisa has been gracious enough to give us those numbers as a breakdown. And you'll see those on those actual projects on Appendix D. Everybody's pretty familiar with the map. The map hadn't really changed in a long time. But there's a breakdown.
Question.
Yes, sir.
I look at the TIF fund estimated cash flow with school payment. I look at the amount of money that is there, particularly, well, not quite sure how to phrase it. There's a line that says federal funding. When I go on the, looking at Lisa's projection overall summary of projects as of March 22, local cost table, there's also a line that says federal funding. Okay, and those match with that one up there. And then the local cost, where are those reflected in this? That's what I was having trouble matching up.
In our cash flow?
Yes, because I'm, or is it, does the local cost include more than TIF funds? Maybe that's the question I should be asking.
Well, yeah, if you look at our cash flow, we've got the federal funding and we've got the projects at, I believe, the full cost, including the payments. So total disbursements, if you look at the cash flow and match it up here for 2022, we've got every line that shows up in Lisa's 2022.
Well, I see the projects.
Right, and that's what shows up on Lisa's.
Oh,
And then we include the debt in the school payments.
the federal funding, but I'm not, okay, so the local cost for 2022 is supposed to be $2,445,202. What numbers in this column on the other sheet do I use to get that number?
You'd have to take the Curry Pike, the Vernal Pike and add those three together and net it against the federal funding to get to the local cost of 2,445.
Sorry, I'm being dense. Sorry,
Okay, go to Jeff, if you would go to page actual page 40. 42 of your PDF.
I can see how I get it in her table. I just don't see how it matches up with the other table.
That's what I'm going to try and help you do. Okay, see the projects down below, 2758,
Yep,
600,
yep,
1,500,000.
yep.
If you totaled those, you'd get the total disbursements for projects. And if you look at the top, there's the federal funding of 2.4. So you'd have to add that minus the 2.4. And you should net to what Lisa has as local costs.
Okay,
Okay, same way for each of the next years. You take the 6 million, obviously there's only one project, 6,000,002. You subtract the 3,000,005 and you would get the net local cost of 2,668,000, which is highly subject to change. Correct, Lisa?
Correct.
this is for, all right. Now I'm beginning to figure it out. This is project.
Jeff was kind of circling the numbers at the bottom there and then circling the federal funding.
Got it. Just had to make sure I could cross my Ts and dot my Is.
Perfectly understandable. Okay, other than that, the rest of the report just has the people in it. So I guess at this point in time, is there any other questions on the West Side TIF, and or we would entertain any past questions on the past reports?
I think we're good.
I'm good.
Okay. Well, Jeff, thank you for doing such a great job at being able to track through the reports.
I learned something new today, screen share. I would just tell the redevelopment commission that when I went through the maps, I noticed that there was a little bit of difference between last year's maps and this year's maps. And I think it's like 3 different parcels on the west side TIF district, it might 3 or 4. When you make an approval, I would hope that you would allow me to work with Jared to kind of make sure we're certain on those small minor changes and that still allow it to get submitted by.
Yes,
April 1st.
we know there've been some subdivisions of properties that messed things up a little bit. And there were some questions about some of the original ones, and we would like it to be accurate. Whatever you can do to make it so is appropriate.
So Jeff, I think you lawyers call that scrivener's error, right?
Well, I think that, yes, we'll call it scrivener's error, but I want to make sure that the redevelopment commission is comfortable with me doing that process and still getting it filed on time.
I'm comfortable.
Okay, I think just let the record reflect, I think this is the first year we made it through Martin's review without an adjustment. So Martin, we tried to make sure everything tied. But if you happen to find anything else over the next week or 2, let us know.
No, I think we're moving along okay.
Thank you.
I have some things that are prompting us out of this. We're going to continue the discussion about the North Park, about a division there. We're going to keep on the back burner the idea of doing a bond down in Fullerton to deal with things, either bonding for specific things or creating some kind of instrument where we can collect debt and bond it at a later point in time.
That would be good.
And I'll remind you that when we looked at the west side TIF, we only bonded for the Profile Parkway extension because we thought we could get by with cash on the other. And
Right.
Given how the world has changed in the last 12 months, we still have some room there to look at a potential bond, even though we don't want to.
Right.
Just keep that in the back of your minds.
Okay.
Well, and we got to encourage Cook to keep at it now. They seem to be back moving forward.
Okay, good.
That's been a good development there. All right. I don't have anything else for Greg. Does anybody else?
No,
Seeing no hands, no comments?
Do we have to do anything with these reports? Or
I think you
make a
should,
motion or
I
something?
think you should
we need to
move
accept
that
them.
we accept them and instruct staff to follow up on the one map and get them filed with the county council and ultimately with the state.
Okay, so moved.
second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to accept the reports from FSG. We instruct staff to complete the mapping of the TIF areas and expeditiously move these forward to distribution to the appropriate parties. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Martin,
Yes.
Commissioner Shelton,
Yes,
Commissioner Kiesling,
Yes.
Commissioner Abbott,
Yes.
Commissioner McCarty.
Yes.
Motion is approved 5-0.
Okay. Thank you very much, Greg.
thank you, Greg.
Thank you all. I appreciate it and have a good rest of the evening.
Okay.
Thank you, Greg.
Goodbye.
Do some more homework here.
All right, moving on our agenda. We have minutes that were prepared for the meeting of February 16th. Is there any comment, corrections, or additions to these minutes?
Well, I didn't see anything except what we talked about earlier about the distribution of money. That wasn't noted in the minutes. But RBD. That was discussed
That was actually discussed
after.
at the January meeting.
Oh, okay, never mind.
If we have no corrections or additions, take a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Second?
I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Martin,
Yes.
Commissioner Shelton,
Yes.
Commissioner Kiesling,
Yes.
Commissioner Abbott,
Yes.
Commissioner McCarty.
Yes.
Motion is approved, 5-0.
Okay, next on our agenda are claims. We have 4 claims on our agenda. We have one for the Stump Law Group having to do with the Vernal Pike right-of-way. We have one from Beam, Longus and Neff about utility coordination work with the Curry Woodyard Road project. We have an Indiana Railroad Company agreement about the Vernal Trail multi-use trail, and a DLC Indiana for Vernal Pike connector, has to do with right-of-way services, for a total of $50,195.32. Does anybody have any questions? Or does any of this need further explanation? Perhaps the Indiana Railroad Company can tell us what's up there.
So the Vernal Pike Trail extension from Lowe's Road Karst Trail to Detmer Park has been on the books for a little while. We've been working with the railroad to get design completed. We did that. So now you have to have certain contracts and agreements for flagging when you're working close to the railroad. I have spoken with the railroad. They're hopefully going to work with us on the cost of the flagging because it really won't have a lot of flagging. And then they also have engineering services as they move forward with our project and work along the project with us.
Okay. That's this voucher here, Indiana Railroad Company. Okay. Anything else that needs to be addressed? If not, I'll take a motion.
I move we approve the claims.
I second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the claims in the amount of $50,195.32. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Martin,
Yes.
Commissioner Shelton,
Yes.
Commissioner Kiesling,
Yes.
Commissioner Abbott,
Yes.
Commissioner McCarty.
Yes.
Motion is approved, 5-0.
Okay. We're on to staff comment. Staff have any other comments?
I do.
Good.
Actually. So on the Vernal Pike Trail, from the original contract that we did with Smith Design Group years ago, we received a supplemental. It's not to exceed $4,900 total. It's for topographic survey and additional design work. We would like to get that approved so we can keep this going and then take it to the commissioners next week for final approval. Again, we kind of we've waited a long time to get to this point, so we're just trying to keep that going. So I would ask that possible you guys would accept that supplemental so I can take it to the next step.
Okay. And this comes out of the West Side TIF?
It does come out of West Side TIP. It's been a project that's been on that list of projects since the project originated. It's been out of there.
Been a long time. Yep. Okay.
Jeff, you have reviewed this contract?
I've looked at it, yes.
You have looked at it?
I have looked at it and I will look at it again before it goes to the commissioners.
Okay. All right. We have a request from the Highway Department or Infrastructure Department, whatever our department is. that deals with
It's
this,
highway.
for $4,900 for additional design services against the West Side TIF for the Vernal Trail. Any other questions?
Well, I have a comment. I do this annually. I remind everybody that my son is an employee of Smith Design. He's a very junior surveyor, but just want to make sure you know that. And if you think I should Abstain, I will.
I don't think it's really necessary.
I don't think it's required.
Okay, good.
No.
Unless, does he live with you?
No, he does not.
And I think you're in good shape. There you go.
All right, well then I'll make a motion that we approve Lisa's request for this project with Smith Design Group.
Second.
We have a motion for approval and a second for a $4,900 maximum on a additional design work from Smith Design Group for a west side tip project for the vernal trail. Please read the roll.
Commissioner Martin,
Yes.
Commissioner Shelton,
Yes,
Commissioner Kiesling,
Yes.
Commissioner Abbott,
Yes.
Commissioner McCarty.
Yes.
Motion is approved, 5-0.
The only, if you have any questions on some of the projects that are going on, the only other thing that I would put out there is we did RFPs, which is the NDOT process for choosing a consultant for construction inspection services for the Vernal Pike Connector Road. We had 3 scores. I believe we had 4 consultants, and the highest scoring consultant was being longest enough. We sent that back to NDOT for review of our checklist and make sure we had everything in order. They approved our choice. So now we will enter negotiations, contract negotiations with being longest enough, and then we'll be bringing a contract to you for approval for that.
Okay. Anything else? That's it?
Like I said, if you have any questions on any of the projects, Curry Pike, Woodyard Road.
You might give us an update on the Woodyard Roads since things are starting to really happen there.
It is, yeah, really happening. So Woodyard Road East is closed. That is for the first construction of the first side of the roundabout. Curry Pike is merged down to 1 lane each direction. That will remain pretty much for the duration all summer. And then after Woodyard Road side is done, they'll move to the Smith Pike side and build that side of the roundabout. We will have bi-weekly meetings on that project. We have the fire department, Mike Corman is notified. He's very involved in the construction of the project to make sure that we don't have any disruptions in emergency services. But yeah, it's very much under construction. Tentative date is the end of November for completion.
Okay.
So yeah, it's
Okay. I did not see in our claim something about Hart Street Road. We got that figured out yet?
I have not heard a word.
We do not have that figured out yet.
No news is good news.
No news is good news.
Okay.
Yeah, Fullerton Pike, it's under right-of-way acquisition for phase 3.
Okay.
Going very well. I think that's the major projects in the TIF districts. If you want to know anything about any projects outside the TIFs, I'm
Okay.
happy to update you on those.
And I would just, as my comment, I would just say that I think we picked a date for the tour of the RBD schools on the 31st in the afternoon. So I'll finalize that with the school. And I believe that since that is touring a facility, it's not subject to a meeting requirement.
Okay.
I just got a notice that they may do another meeting for the monument. It's over there. Just that.
I think that got moved to Friday.
I think it moved to Friday. That's what I
Yes.
was thinking too, yeah. I
This
hope
is an
so.
afternoon, 31st.
Yes.
I might be available.
That'd be
I knew
good.
I wasn't earlier in the day.
Well,
Okay.
that's a Thursday. right?
Correct.
All right. Since we have a guest, I'm going to put the guest comment in right here. Randy, did you have anything you wanted to say? He's just an observer. Okay. All right. Commissioners' comments. Let me start with you, Jim.
no comment. Thank you. I'm good. I'm glad to see how the hybrid meeting worked, and I'm glad to see, I think it'd be safe for me to be there next time.
Good.
Good. Lisa,
glad
how
to
about
see
you?
Lisa?
No, I don't have any comments. I'm sorry. I was driving and I had to wait to push the button. So I'm good.
Okay. Colin, anything from you?
No, I'm good.
Yes, Chris?
No, just got full of numbers.
Okay. The one thing I did want to tell you, I've had okay, yes, Mike Carmen.
Mike?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Well, oddly enough, to show you how I live my life, this meeting is the most exciting meeting I attend all year. To hear the annual report of what's going on and where, think you're headed and stuff. Really, it truly is exciting to do all that. I want to just add that to the positivity of what's going on. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike.
We do this every March. I do want to let you know, I've been, some years ago, I was at a affordable housing forum here in Bloomington, where Steve Smith gave a presentation on the various components of subdivision development cost and housing cost. And I've asked him to go back and look in his notes and see if he can reprise that so that we can have a better understanding of the components of cost for housing. Because some of those components, we as a redevelopment commission could have some impact on. Others are well beyond our purview. And understanding where we might be able to influence costs is going to be really important if we're going to make a push to try and do some affordable housing work through the TIF. So Steve has agreed to try and put something together for April so we can have a better talk on that.
That'll be helpful.
Great, that's a great idea.
What's that?
I said that's a great idea.
Yeah, I think it'll work out fairly well. I don't know, were you at the presentation that on the affordable housing that, I don't know whether who put it on, the chamber or.
It was Lynn Coyne
Right.
at BEDC.
Yes,
Right.
that's right. Right.
Yeah.
that's- Yeah. And as I said, there are components of that cost that we can influence. There are other components that are outside our purview, and it doesn't do us any good to talk about those. We really only have focus where we can have some influence.
Good
So I
idea.
thought it'd be good for us to understand that.
Good.
Because they are a substantial portion of the cost.
Oh, yes.
Okay, that's my comment. Anything else last minute?
I would just note the BEDC has their hand raised.
Yes.
Hello, BEDC.
Hello, how are you? This is Jen Pearl from the BEDC. And first of all, just wanted to say thanks so much for the presentation today. And then following up on some of the comments about housing and other needs, wanted to share that we recently published a memo on economic development priorities for the community. And knowing that the RDC has tried to really focus on areas of greatest need to kind of, highest and best use of land, we wanted to share that in case that could be a resource for you all. I'm happy to share the link in the chat if that's appropriate. It's also posted on our website under news and events.
Thank you very much.
It may be best if you emailed it to me because given the hybrid nature, 3 of the RDC members wouldn't be able to see the chat.
Yes, yeah, you ought to email things like that to Jeff so that he can make sure they get distributed to everybody.
Okay. Thanks so much. We'll be happy to share.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else? Seeing no new hands being raised and nobody here, everything to say, I think we are ready to adjourn.
I
All
will
in favor of
adjourn.
adjourning, say aye.
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 You're adjourned.
Okay.
Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.